Oh. Yeah? Alrighty, everyone, hello. Now today we are looking at a very fun topic as, while I once did the ex-witch turned Christian reacts as a witch, we're going to look at now New Age from a witch's perspective. Oh boy, New Age is,
I've been chilling in the mountains of Peru.
It's something. A lot of the stuff that we consider New Age today is definitely eccentric, bold, very free-spirited, right? And all these other kinds of things that we now associate with it. But first, in order to react or talk about New Age, we do have to kind of pin down what New Age means, what it's referring to, and what it comes from. So, step one, New Age is actually referring to, like, the New Age. Like, we are entering a New Age, that age being, according to a lot of people, Age of Aquarius. However, I did stumble across this source, which seems to be saying that we are actually in the Age of Pisces, and we are currently going through the Piscean era of the Age of Pisces. That's a whole thing. I'll leave that down in the description for you to read because it's a lot and we could talk about it all day. Let me just, as an example of eras and phases, right, in ages and all that, typically it's thought that an age in human history lasts about 2,000 years or so, maybe 2,100-ish years, and it has something to do with how the Earth is going on its little axis here. And it seems that every 2,000 years we enter this, a different chapter of human history, right? So for example, the time of Aries, the age of Aries at 2,000 years, well, it happens to line up 2000-ish BC to 0, right? To, like, you know, Common Era, 0 CE. And in that time, what do we see? We see a lot of war, we see a lot of conquest, we see a lot of war gods showing up and taking center stage and doing all kinds of interesting things, most notably the god of the Abrahamic religions, right? But it's with that 0 CE on that we enter into a new era again. And that era, according to this one source, is where we are now, and that's the Age of Pisces. Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, Pisces being a sign that's all about, like, spirituality, expansion of thought, illusion, you know, dreams and all these things. It's a sign ruled by Neptune, which is very much about that kind of mystical, spiritual side of things. So it kind of makes more sense that, as I think about it, we would be in the Age of Pisces. But the problem is, we're seeing a lot of innovation too, and that's a big Aquarian theme. But now the Pisces era of the Pisces age, it's going to uncap and uncork a lot of crazy stuff with religion, and the more I think about it, the more that makes a whole lot of sense, because I feel like in the past 10 years alone, things with religion have gotten redonkulous. But I digress. But so now, to get more into the actual New Age ideology that especially started cropping up around that Aquarian era, right, as we're talking about, started cropping up with, let's say, Wicca in the sort of early mid-1900s and moving onwards, we start getting people who are very liberated in their religious expression, right? We start getting the hippie folk, we start getting people who are exploring different paths of spirituality that go out of bounds of mainstream traditional ideas of Christianity, like monotheism specifically. And a lot of Christian organizations have pushed back on New Age because they want to hold on to those traditional models of Christianity, of monotheism, that dictate that Jesus is the Son of God, and the only way to get to God is to worship Jesus, and that he did not do any magic stuff. He is God incarnate, so he only ever did God magic stuff. That there's only one way to God, that there's only one way to worship, that there's only one way to do everything, right? So that's like that traditional sense, and New Age breaks off of that. New Age says, nope, actually, God is in everything. God is in you, God is in me, God is in the trees and the birds and the stones. God is in and is everything. And so that's an ideology called pantheism, the idea that God is in everything. And then also another ideology comes with New Age, and that is that everything is one, that we're all connected, that we're all together. And that ideology is called monism. Mainstream religion really doesn't like this. Mainstream religion really wants it to be cut and dry, separated boundaries, so that there's always this kind of hierarchical relationship between a huge god that we can never truly understand or get close to, and us, these little maggots writhing on the ground. As you can see, I don't really buy into that. So maybe this is a point for the New Agers here in that I am actually a little bit more closer to ideals of pantheism and monism in this sense. But nonetheless, right, so we get some really wacky concepts, especially around God and Jesus in New Age, like the idea that Jesus, like, just magically disappeared during his adolescence, went to Egypt to learn magic, somehow got to the Far East and met Buddha, and, like, all these other things. Like, these wacky theories kind of pop up that suggest that Jesus, you know, learned all his tricks somewhere, and also achieved this state of almost quasi-Buddhahood that in New Age circles is labeled Christ consciousness. And Christ consciousness is that idea that you can kind of elevate your mind to the position of Christ, that you can become so enlightened that you kind of are able to basically unlock the company secrets of the universe and just become super in tune with everything and basically become truly and insanely Christ-like. New Age also insists that there is actually not only one single, strict, straightforward way to God, but multiple ways to God, and that is called pluralism. Which, again, I agree with. I think there are multiple different paths to meeting and understanding God. And when we say, oh, but Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, well, I look at that very metaphorically, because that's literally what the Gospel of John does. It makes Jesus into a metaphor for the Word of God being wisdom, love, and all these other kinds of things. Oh no, am I New Age? Oh no. Oh, have I been New Age this whole time? Oh no. So there is some stuff in New Age that, like, yeah, actually there's some stuff that I feel like a lot of us watching this could probably get on board with, right? Again, monism, everything is connected. Pantheism, that divinity, divine inspiration, life source, whatever, is in every living thing, every even non-living thing like rocks. And pluralism, that there is more than one way to experience divinity. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people could probably get on board with that. Where we get a little shaky-bakey is when the aesthetic, like, super, you know, I love rocks and trees, like, Pinterest version of New Age comes in. And I think really the true problem here is that, once again, the absolutely necrotic touch of capitalism has brushed into it. But basically, we get this kind of issue with New Age where suddenly we are just completely ripping concepts out of different religions, watering them down to the point of barely being able to recognize them, and passing them off as some super spiritual blah blah understanding. For example, chakras, or as folks in the West call them, chakras. So chakra, this is a concept of Hinduism. This is an idea of different energy centers, right, all the way down our body. And a lot of people, and especially in a lot of New Age spirituality in the West, they take that and they just kind of run with it, right? That, like, oh, this essential oil is associated with your throat chakra, or, I don't know, you can open your heart chakra by doing acts of kind, like, silly little things like that, that really bastardize the original concept that is native to Hinduism. And that's where the thing gets a little wonky bonk. It's not even necessarily that these things are, like, super hyper closed according to people of these religions I've talked to. It's just that, again, the concepts don't get translated right, they don't get understood right, and so what happens in Western spirituality is we get a very bastardized understanding of these things. And another extreme example is karma. Oh my god. Everyone says, aha, karma's gonna get you, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you know, instant karma. That's not how karma works in these Vedic systems. Karma has no impact on what goes on in this life. Everything that you do in this life will be answered for in your next reincarnation cycle, if I'm understanding it right from the perspective of the religions that have this kind of dharmic system. But here in the West, the word karma has come really just to mean, like, what comes around goes around. You reap what you sow, all that other kind of stuff. And that's not really what it is, but that's how it's now perceived. But later on, right, so after, like, all this other stuff, after we start branching into, like, especially in the mid-1900s into, like, Wicca and stuff like that, where we're starting to get more to these earth-based, nature-based, more feminine, matriarchal style religious paths, these really nature-based spiritual paths, we're also starting to get into spiritualism, right? And theosophy, and these other philosophies that are insisting more on like things like reincarnation, things like being able to consult with the dead, for instance, that's spiritualism, and so on and so on and so on. So it gets deeper, right? Now we're starting to see how between the earth-based stuff and the spiritualism that, like, yeah, crystals are really big, incense is really big, tarot cards and other tools of mediumship start getting really popular again. Like, it just kind of continues to snowball. And to one end, it becomes so basically in the face of people every day. It becomes so commonplace and popular, gaining more popularity, that it becomes an entire genre of music, too. I know at least one of you had a mom that put on Enya or Enigma. And if we watched Lord of the Rings, then we also know that we all enjoy a little bit of Enya, okay? We all like Enya. But that kind of music, that new agey goofiness, that's the stuff that is characterized as new age music. And so another thing that's really fun is that actually PEW Research Center can give us a bit of a breakdown as to like who's holding these kinds of beliefs now and how they are seemingly kind of permeating even more mainstream Christianity. For instance, I mean, these stats we got here from PEW Research, they suggest that quite a few Christians actually do hold at least one technically new age belief, like the idea that, like, you know, maybe universalism, right, like everyone's getting saved, or maybe ideas like you know, reincarnation even, or believing in things like astrology or anything like that. Like, it seems to be that a lot of Christians actually are starting to kind of just generally slide a little bit more into the new age, which is interesting. We can also see that it's typically more popular from like Gen X on, which makes sense because a lot of Gen X folks are the ones that really clung on to things like Wicca in the 80s and 90s and ran with it and have stayed so for a while. This is why we're going to now see people who have been Wiccan for like 20 years. We're going to see people who now are starting to be raised Wiccan because their parents are old enough to be having kids, right? The Gen X is definitely old enough to be having kids. So now we've also seen that it seems to be more women. I mean, there are plenty of men in New Age, but it seems to be more women than men who get into this. And so, honestly, yeah, while I was looking into this, I realized, oh wow, I'm actually probably a bit more technically New Age than I thought. Which isn't a bad thing, really. It's just that the stereotype of New Age, right, with the, you know, with the conspiracy theories about how the aliens built pyramids and we're all connected to the star people and star seeds and indigo children, that's where it gets bad. For those of you who have never heard of star seeds or indigo children, what they are is a way for people who had kids that might have been on the spectrum a few decades ago to completely ignore that and instead just blow a bunch of smoke up their kid's ass about how they're actually aliens on Earth and enlightened, beautiful, special angels here to help us, and not give them any of the supports or other treatments or tools they would have needed to better, like, you know, cope with the world that they live in. Starseed specifically is some quasi-white supremacist shit in that, like, basically these blonde-haired, blue-eyed aliens are thought to be reincarnating as normal people on Earth, and because they are actually aliens from beyond, they are more enlightened and more progressive and are here to push humanity forward. Which is wild to think about and wild to believe, but likewise, indigo children are just these special children, these children who can't handle being around people, or who can't handle, like, loud, distracting things, or, you know, who are really sensitive to injustice and all these other things. Which, as a slightly neurospicy person myself, I can tell you that has nothing to do with any kind of spiritual indigo children nonsense. Another thing is that it does, again, take on some very white supremacist rhetoric, not just like the Aryan alien situation with the starseeds, but this idea that, again, that aliens came down and built pyramids. We all know why this is a mess, because it's just saying that ancient people are too stupid to build things. That's a problem. There's no evidence whatsoever that the pyramids have anything to do with aliens or anything else. This is a dumb theory. Everyone knows that ancient aliens talked a lot of stupid shit with that. So we're going to take a look at a couple little goofy New Age things I found. Which I had to look elsewhere for, right? I couldn't just look in the New Age thing for this, because New Age is just a lot of It's a lot of New Age to Christian things, which actually we'll take a look at too. But so first things first, when I typed in New Age to TikTok, what I found was a lot of New Age to Christian testimony, and we're going to look at a couple of those right now because I feel like those can also tell us something about New Age as well. Afterwards, we're going to look at some of the more witchy spiritual talk, manifestation stuff that I found, which is still technically New Age, but is slightly off, so stay tuned. Oh, I was like, why can't I read this? Oh, okay, that's Dutch. No, that's Dutch. But okay, I mean, to me it just looks like you traded one spiritual system for another. And that's, like, fine. I mean, it's okay to switch your religious philosophies. That's fine. I do want to say that as someone who really likes writing and really likes books, it is kind of always interesting to see, like, a switch from, like, a tool-based thing to a book-based thing, you know? Like New Age tools and the smoke and the Reiki healing and everything else to like book-based journals, writing. It's interesting. But, I mean, I don't know. Okay, yeah, good for you. You went from doing one system to another. I mean, you could have done both, but that's alright.
Something that I think makes New Age so dangerously appealing.
Girl looks like she's half asleep. Did she like just wake up and pop into this video?
Is that like if you're ever having a bad time, like you want a sign and it's like you can find a 222 or like an 88 or something on a license plate and be like, oh, there's a sign, like that's God, there's my good sign, like I don't know. And then with Christ, it's like he's so much more elusive. He's not just like throwing signs out like candy. That's all I have to say.
Well, now I feel bad because, oh, seems like Girly was having a hard time. However, this one's interesting. This one's interesting because it looks like she's struggling. So we just saw the last one, right? Where she's kind of like, oh, look at from witchy tool to book, right? All that kind of stuff. This one seems to be struggling with that transition, and that's something I think people don't talk about, right? Yeah, when you have more New Age philosophy, it's really easy to kind of confirmation bias your way into a lot of things, right? I mean, like, you can, if you're looking for a certain number, you're looking for it, right? Like, no one talks about that part where if you think that the number 2 is a sign, you're suddenly going to start noticing 2s everywhere. Yeah, sure, there's some universe aspect to it too if you're spiritual and you believe in that, but a lot of it's also just you start actively looking for it. And a thing about mainstream Christianity is that they really don't tell you what signs from God are supposed to look like. And so people don't know what to look for. There's an element of discernment that needs to be had across New Age and also Christianity, right? Because in New Age, a lot of people, again, confirmation bias, they start getting too many signs, and to the point that they start deluding themselves into thinking that what they're doing is cool and good just because they happen to see, like, the letter A a bunch all over the place, right? Meanwhile, Christians have no concept, so maybe Jesus is trying to throw out signs like candy, and you have no idea because you were never taught what Jesus' signs look like. I tell you, when, as a Christian witch, when God wants you to know some shit, it is undeniable. You cannot deny it. Like, the same song I've listened to so many times, the fact that suddenly it hits me like a punch in the head on a random fucking Tuesday while I'm at the gym, that's a different kind of sign that people might not know how to recognize when they come into Christianity. It's true. So I feel bad for this girlie. I hope she can kind of figure out that discernment a little bit. I hope she gets better with that. But also, I mean, it may be true that just she might need a different spiritual paradigm, okay? Like, it's okay to be on a more New Agey paradigm. This is why things like tarot cards are really good. You want a sign that you definitely can't easily mess up. Yeah, tarot cards is like, hey, what should I, God, what do you think? And then you get this feeling to pull a card, and you pull a card. Well, there's your card, there's your sign, right? It's a lot more straightforward than praying and hoping that you will recognize a sign if and when one comes. It's almost like New Age is actually a tool, a crutch in a way, some way to tangibilize what mainstream Christianity has really stripped into a very bare bones, going in blind kind of path. Like, there's nothing wrong with using some tools, right? It's like asking a kid to ride a bike two-wheel from the jump. It's saying, well, you just have to have faith, and that'll help you get on the bike and drive it. Well, no. New Age is like the training wheels on the bike, so you can get the balance right, so you can get the feel for it, and then when the training wheels come off, now you can actually drive regardless and actually catch that intuitive balance and figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Leaving the New Age, tarot, witchcraft community was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but also one of the easiest decisions I've ever made. I did not want to believe that I had been deceived, or that I was leading people astray, or that I had been led astray, because I swore I had all the keys. I swore I knew everything. I swore I was wise. I was an old soul, I done went on these psychedelic trips. I done seen things that people ain't never seen. I had these encounters that were very real. And I also had very real results. I manifested things into this physical reality. Got 200,000 followers on my platform from sharing my New Age teachings, from being a psychic, and a very accurate one at that. So that was also another confirmation for me at that time. Booked for Coachella. I had to do spiritual readings and energy healings. 2 businesses, my tarot business and my crystal shop that was paying my bills, allowed me to move out to LA. So I had very real evidence for what I believed at that time. I also just believed I was helping people. I was helping people along on their healing journey, helping people get in tune with themselves, and helping people manifest things into this reality, until God really exposed the root of those things. The things that I wanted to manifest, and the things that most people are wanting to manifest, are these fleshly desires of money, of fame, of a physical relationship, or whatever the case may be. And on top of that, we're going to everything but God to get it. Out of all the things I manifested, all the money, the followers, the attention, the physical materials, and the spiritual wisdom that I thought I had, out of all those things that I manifested, they do not come close. They are literally dirty, dusty rags compared to the peace, joy, and blessings that God has brought into my life. Like, if I thought I was blessed before, if I thought the universe was blessing me before, God is blessing me so much bigger, so much louder, so much lighter, so much cleaner. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's like, I literally thought I knew everything. I thought I had the keys, y'all. Like, I was trying to give other people the keys. Like, here you go. Here you go. Until I met a man named Jesus that told me, baby, I know you're tired, judgmental, in this condemning person that people have made me out to be. I am the Savior that is here to tell you that when you are tired, when you are weary, when the burden is too heavy, come to me.
My question is, what did you do to replace the money? Because you still have bills still. I don't doubt that God can do all that. God did crazy shit for me, but like, I'm just concerned because like, what are you doing now? I hope you're stable. I hope you're alright. But more than that, again, we're noticing some things, right? Oh, I was judgmental. I was looking for all of these material things. Well,
I have this working theory about why so many people turn back from spirituality and go to Christianity and then demonize spirituality. And it's mainly because we're being sold this very simplified, watered down, capitalistic, external worldview idea of what spirituality is. Spirituality has always been about the inner world. It's always been about learning to find the anchor in the calm and the storm, regardless of the seasons of change. You're supposed to be able to adapt. Whereas Western spirituality and capitalist spirituality is very about control. You control everything in your life. You get everything you want out of life. You hit the jackpot. You can get everything, all of your desires. It's a watered down get-rich-quick scheme. It's manifestation or twin flames. And when people realize that your spirituality is not about getting everything you want, they're going to go back to Christianity because it's more understandable.
Part of New Age spirituality, too, is to, like, not do that. It's almost like the problem isn't any of the religions you might have been a part of, or any of the spiritualities that you might have engaged in, or any of the philosophies that you were claiming to, dive into, but the mindset from which you approach them. Because let me tell you, again, I was looking for all these wealthy, earthly material things in New Age. Well, a sure heck of a lot of people run to Christianity looking for all the delicious, wonderful material blessings of prosperity gospel. A lot of people run to Christianity thinking that if they just worship hard enough that God will bless them with, like, a mansion and 3 muscle cars. It's not about the religion you follow, it's about your mindset. Any single religious path can go straight to hell in a handbasket if you are approaching it with the wrong idea. For me, myself, when I was younger, I was like, one day I really want to be rich and famous, and, like, of course, I still want to, like, be a really popular author, because that's what I want to do as an author. I want my books to be read by tons and tons of people. That's, like, not an unfair thing to want. But I've given up a lot of the anxiety around getting it. I'm perfectly content with my cozy little life right now. I never grew up in a way that says you need to have a mansion and 3 muscle cars regardless. So for me, like, being a witch has actually helped me undo a lot of the more materialistic things. Being a Christian witch especially has helped me really understand more of the root of the issue and get more of this peace that she is talking about. So it's kind of like, I can see where New Age stuff can bring you there, because there's so much of this shit about manifestation, and that's actually one of the major problems with New Age too, is that, like, this whole manifest your way out of problems sounds actually a lot like evangelical Christianity. For example, right?
New Age spirituality is a scam. It's a cult. It will literally trap you into this way of thinking that you can create your whole reality and that something is wrong with you because you're not manifesting abundance or you're not manifesting a new life like you are trying so hard to do. The reason why is because there's a bigger problem besides you. Imagine walking up to people who are really suffering in this world and just being like, well, you can create your own reality. Do you realize how stupid that sounds? If you're in the position to be able to recreate your own reality, you are privileged as and promoting that and making other people think that something is wrong with them because they're not getting where they want to be is exactly what's wrong. Most of New Age spirituality, all they can talk about is manifesting abundance. I made money this way, I can make money this way, I manifested this, I manifested that. Where is the connection to land? Where is the connection to other people? Where are you actually helping other people besides charging X amount of dollars for your online course or for your content? New Age spirituality uses capitalism and abuses and takes advantage of other people so that they can feed their own spiritual ego.
Just create your own reality, like this person is saying, isn't really... Like, are you manifesting or are you just deluluing? You know, that's kind of the thing. I mean, they already said it all, but remember when we were talking about John Ramirez and his shit about how he was chasing after all of these things through witchcraft, or his weird idea of it, and then started getting all of these things through Jesus? Like, now he's got this big ministry and he's, like, all over the place, and he's still getting all this money and fame and everything else, don't get me wrong. He's still getting all of that stuff. It's just that he had that very, give your life to Jesus and everything will magically work out. Don't, like, actually address any systemic issues going on. Just believe harder and everything will be fine. Manifestation is the exact same thing. Manifestation says, what? Institutional racism, classism, sexism, whatever? No, you just have to manifest harder. Like, it's the same kind of girl boss shit, individualistic, bootstrap pulling kind of nonsense that gets people in trouble in the first place. Because then when they inevitably can't, just manifest themselves out of systemic issues, they start thinking that they are just weak, inferior, bad, and a failure. And that's not good, because it's not true, because it's not right, right? Okay, personally, I hate these kinds of things where it's just like you go on TikTok and someone's like randomly pulling tarot cards and they're just like, oh, a permanent position with a higher salary is coming to you. Within days and you're about to receive a huge amount of wealth in the next 6 to 7 hours. Money's coming your way like water. You'll never lack money again. Believe and you will be smiling in 3 to 4 hours. Use this sound to claim. Personal read link in my bio. So first of all, this person is shilling. Step 1. I'm going to tell you something right now. As much as I bag on Christians, these people do the same type of shit all the time. And this is where, you know what? As we look at some of these girlies who are talking about signs and stuff, and how like, oh, you know, when I left New Age, I was, you know, I was seeing all these signs, looking for all these signs. Yeah. I'm about to get upset. Doesn't matter if you are a Christian or a New Ager. You have to watch out for people using your spiritual lingo, your spiritual paradigms to grift the shit out of you. This is way too specific. First of all, this is on an algorithm. Sure, you could say there's some technomancy involved in that, like, yeah, the algorithm is being guided by the universe to get on people's profile, but no. First of all, no. That's a great way to land yourself in Delulu land and get some spiritual psychosis. But second of all, we also see in the tags here, this says manifest, manifestation, blah, witch for hire, manifest this, manifest blah, 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 blah. All this crap in the tags, right? All this crap in the tags because this isn't something that this person actually believes is going to happen. This is something that they want you to believe that you can manifest or you can make happen, and that you should go buy their services, their readings, in order to confirm that it is a thing. Also, this is the Ace of Cups and the Ten of Cups. Ace of Cups and Ten of Cups doesn't really have much to do with money. If this were like a coins card even, I would be like, at least you got that right, but no. Oof. He is leaving her for you. Now that's ugly. And we could talk about it in the context of New Age and that, no, 0%, you gotta like put the brakes on it. This is my problem. This is where I feel like we get a lot of ex-witch to Christian shenanigans in the first place, because a lot of people go do this manifestation, witchcraft bullshit, and they do it by throwing all like common sense out the door. Why on earth are you trying to break up a couple and steal someone's man? Like, witchcraft or no, Christian or no, that's a shitty thing to do. That just sucks. And when you start doing shitty, sucky things like this, yeah, you're gonna feel like a bad person. You're gonna feel bad. You're gonna have a bad time. You might have a chip on your shoulder. Because guess what? What's to stop someone else from doing this shit on you? Think about it. You're doing this spell to manifest someone else's man. Well, what's to stop some other girl who's got this same philosophy from manifesting that man now away from you? And now you're constantly fighting and doing and trying desperately to hold on to these ill-won things. And for what? Stupid. That's all I gotta say about that. That fires me up so bad. It's not about the love spell. It's about basically trying to shove an energetic crowbar into other people's business. That's really lame. I don't, whatever. I mean, honestly, do whatever you want, TBH. Like, don't necessarily take my word as law. I'm not God. But, like, I personally, if I find out someone did something like that, yeah, I'm gonna give them the up and down, because get your shit together. What is that? That's, magic aside, that's just dumb. If you would look at someone who's actively trying to flirt with a person who clearly has a partner like that, I look at this the same way. If I see this, I'm like, ew. That's just like tactless. That's just disrespectful. That's just shit. Why would you do that? If your heart's not in the right place, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter if you're Christian. It doesn't matter if you're spiritual. It doesn't matter if you're New Age. It doesn't matter if you're Buddhist. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim. It doesn't matter what you are. If your heart is not already in the right place, or at least you're not trying to get your religion to help you get it to that right place, no spiritual system is going to work for you. Not a single spiritual system is going to work for you if your mindset is absolutely in the dumpster like this. That's just how it is. As they say, you put lipstick on a pig, it's still going to smell like shit. Okay? But with all that said, guys, I mean, honestly, when it comes, again, as I was saying, any spiritual system can go sideways if you are just using it for your own gain. So, while there are a lot of flaws with New Age ideology in the West, especially with how they rip off a lot of stuff from other cultures, with how they seem to have very little regard for cultural tradition, practice, and everything else, and how they try to kind of like make everything uniform and mean the same thing, it still does permeate into a lot of areas of our lives right now. A lot of New Age ideals cross over into many other things like Christianity, like even people who are not really religious at all. It's just kind of embedded in the system at this point now. And again, like all things, it requires discernment. You gotta understand, you gotta know how this stuff, being religious or spiritual, inherently puts you in the line of fire of people who want to control you, manipulate you, and grift you, and how to avoid that, right? You have to learn to be standing on your own feet, confident in yourself and your guides and your gods and whatever else you follow in order to make this happen. So this was long-winded, and I'm sorry, but I hope that this helps kind of think about this a little bit, refigure a little bit with New Age. And at least this is my opinion on it. Just my opinion. If it's not your opinion, if you don't agree with it, that's totally fine. I'm not saying my word is law, I'm just saying this is what I think and this is what I very deeply feel. So, take it or leave it, but that was a little fun to walk through, and I will see you guys next time for some more fun Christian witch topics, of which we have many. So, see ya.